The prince froze. The king leaned forward. The entire crowd went silent because standing before them was a girl no one wanted to touch just hours ago, and in her hands was a basket full of holes. Water poured through it. Everyone could see it, and yet it was still full, not a drop missing. A whisper spread through the crowd. Impossible! But the king didn't speak. He only smiled because he already knew this girl was different. But how did she get here? How did the most rejected girl in the village become the one no one could ignore? How had she appeared before the king, radiant, confident, and performing a task no one thought anyone could ever do? Sit back and relax as we dive into this powerful African folktale. You're watching African Stories That Touch. Once upon a time, in a small village by the waters of West Africa, where smoke curled gently into the sky from cooking fires, where traders shouted and argued in the market, where life moved slowly like nothing bad could ever happen, there lived a girl. Her name was Mma, an orphan. She had no father, no mother, no one to speak for her, and that was just the beginning of her pain. Mma was thin, too thin. Her arms looked like they could snap if you held them too tight. Her clothes, old, faded, and sometimes torn. Her hair stayed rough and tangled, no matter how hard she tried to fix it. And her face, that was the part the villagers never let her forget. Ah, look at her. Who will marry this one? The gods must have forgotten to complete her face. Laughter, loud laughter. Everywhere she went, laughter followed. If she walked past the market, women would stop what they were doing just to point at her. Men would turn their faces away like looking at her was a bad omen. Even little children would run after her, mocking her voice, her walk, her face. Ugly girl, they would chant. And Mma, she said nothing. She just held her small bundle of firewood tighter, lowered her head, and walked faster, as if she could outrun the pain. But she couldn't, because the laughter always followed. At night, when the village grew quiet, when the same people who mocked her had gone to sleep, that was when it hurt the most. She would sit outside her small hut, draw her knees close to her chest, and just stare into the darkness. No tears, just silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy in your chest. She didn't dream of princes, didn't dream of palaces, didn't dream of gold or fine wrappers or people praising her name. No, Mma's heart had become too tired for big dreams. She only had one wish. Just one. A single day. A day where nobody would whisper when she passed. A day where nobody would laugh at her face. A day where she could walk through the village and feel like she belonged. But what she didn't know was that her story was about to change in a way no one in that village would ever forget. Far away from that village, at the heart of the kingdom, there stood a palace. It was big, silent, but powerful. And inside that palace, there was a prince. Young, handsome, gentle. The kind of men people pointed at with pride. The kind mothers prayed their daughters would marry. Everywhere he went, people smiled at him. They praised him. They admired him. But there was one thing missing. He had not found her, the one. The girl who would make his heart stop. The girl who would change everything. But his father, the king, that man was not ordinary. He had seen too much of life to be deceived by beauty. One evening, he sat with his council, watching quietly and thinking. Then he spoke, slowly but firmly. The time has come to choose a wife for my son. He paused and looked around the room. The chosen one must possess something far greater than beauty. The room fell silent. She must have a kind heart, a mind that is sharp, and courage. He leaned forward slightly. The kind that does not break. The council members looked at each other. They understood that this was not going to be easy. And then the king did something no one expected. He created tests. Not ordinary tests, impossible ones. The first test: each maiden must fetch water using a basket full of holes. A few of the men laughed softly. Your Majesty, that cannot be done. But the king said nothing. The second test: each maiden must solve the king's riddles. Riddles so deep, so tricky, even wise men had failed them before. Now the laughter stopped. This was serious. And the king made it clear. Only one girl, only one, who could pass both tests would become the prince's bride. The message spread across the kingdom like wildfire. Girls prepared, villages buzzed, hope rose, dreams woke up. But somewhere, in a quiet corner of a small village, there was a girl who did not even know that her life was about to change forever. On the day of this ceremony, the whole village was alive. Noise everywhere, excitement. Girls rushing up and down, adjusting their wrappers, fixing their hair, practicing how they would walk into the palace. Maybe the prince will choose me. No, it will be me. Laughter, whispering, dreaming. And in the middle of all that joy, they ignored her. Mma, the girl they never saw as a threat. Too plain, too awkward, too nothing. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Mma's story had already changed. The sun was still low when Mma stepped out of her hut. Her bundle of firewood sat heavy on her back. Each step was slow and painful. Her knees shook, but she kept walking. She always kept walking. "Look at her," a girl shouted near the well. The others turned, laughed. "Her arms are like sticks. Is this one going to the palace too? Carry firewood first before you dream of marriage." More laughter, louder this time. Mma said nothing, not a word. She only tightened her grip on the rope and kept moving. At the market, it got worse. A boy ran past her and shoved her hard. "Go away, ugly girl," he shouted. Her head tilted. Firewood scattered to the ground. For a moment, she froze. Her fingers trembled as she bent down, picking them one by one. People were watching. Some were smiling, some were whispering. Her cheeks burned. Her chest felt tight. But still, she said nothing. She stood up, lifted the bundle again, and kept walking. The sun climbed higher. It was hot and harsh. Sweat ran down her face. Her shoulders screamed in pain. Her stomach growled. The other girls, they were already on their way to the palace, laughing, singing, and dreaming. Some had people walking with them, cheering them on. But Uma, she walked alone. No one beside her, no one calling her name. Just dust, just heat, just pain. And then something happened. Something small, but everything changed from that moment. Near the edge of the village, she saw an old woman, bent, weak, and struggling. A bundle of firewood on her back, even bigger than Imma's. The woman stumbled, almost fell. "Please," she cried softly, "my daughter, help me." Other girls passed by. They looked, then they looked away. Some even laughed. "Old woman, go and rest. No time for this." They walked on. Uma stopped, just for a moment. Her legs were already tired, her body already in pain. But something moved inside her. a small voice, a quiet pull in her chest. She dropped her own bundle, walked toward the woman, and said, "I'll help you," she said softly. The old woman looked up, surprised, truly surprised.
Nma lifted the heavy load onto her back. Her body shook. The weight pressed down hard. Her fingers burned. Her shoulders screamed. But she didn't drop it. She didn't complain. She didn't stop. Step by step, she walked, slow and steady, breathing hard until they reached the woman's hut. The old woman turned to her, placed a hand gently on her arm. "Thank you, my daughter," she said. "Your heart is rare." "It's nothing, Ma said, and dropped the firewood. The woman studied her carefully. "Why are you not at the palace with the other maidens?" Nma looked down, shook her head slowly. "No man would marry someone like me," she said quietly. "Besides, I can't solve the king's riddles. I'm not meant for the palace." The old woman smiled. Not a normal smile. The kind of smile that says, "I know something you don't know." "Come on, that's nonsense," she said. Then she brought out something small, a kolanut. "Take this," she said. "Chew it. It will prepare you for the palace." Nma hesitated, looked at the kolanut, then at the old woman, then slowly she put it in her mouth and chewed. At first, nothing happened. Then she felt a warmth deep in her chest. It spread slowly. Her fingers twitched, her back straightened, her breath changed. Her skin began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. Her arms filled out, her shoulders lifted, her face changed. Not suddenly, not magically, but like something hidden was finally being revealed.
Nma staggered back. "What is happening to me?" The old woman stepped closer. "You were never less," she said softly. "Your beauty was only hidden. Go, child, destiny awaits you." Nma looked at her hands. They were strong and steady. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. "Thank you, Mama."
But then as she turned to leave, the doubt came back. What if they laugh at me? What if I fail? Her heart began to race. Still, she stood up straight, lifted her head, and she started walking toward the palace. Each step felt different now, heavy but strong. And as she walked, she had no idea that the whole kingdom was about to stop because of her. By the time Nma stepped out of the old woman's hut, something had changed. She could feel it. The warmth from the kolanut still rested in her chest. Not hot, not burning, just strong. Her legs no longer shook. Her arms no longer felt weak. Her back straightened on its own. And for the first time in her life, Nma lifted her head without fear.
As she walked back into the village, people stopped, one by one. A woman carrying water froze mid-step. Children paused their games. Men dropped their tools. Even the birds scattered from the trees. "Wait," someone whispered. "Is that Ma?" Another voice, softer, almost afraid. "It can't be. She's beautiful." But Ma said nothing. She didn't smile. She didn't look around. She just walked, straight and calm, towards the palace. The same people who once laughed at her now could not even speak. When she reached the palace gates, silence fell again. The maiden stood there, dressed beautifully, ready, prepared and confident. But the moment they saw her, everything changed. Their whispers died, their smiles faded, their confidence shook. Because standing before them was someone they never expected. Ma, radiant, calm, unafraid. The prince saw her first. He froze. Something in him shifted. He stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on her. "Who is she?" he whispered. Not to anyone, just to himself. The king said nothing. He only watched, a small smile forming on his lips. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. The first test began. A basket full of holes. One girl tried. Water poured out. She cried. Another tried. It slipped through. She screamed in frustration. One by one, they all failed. Whispers spread. Laughter returned. Doubt filled the air. Then Ma stepped forward. She knelt beside the basket, touched it gently, as if she understood it. Then, slowly, she lifted it. Water dripped, yes, but it did not empty. The basket stayed full. Silence, deep silence filled the air. No one moved. No one spoke. The prince's mouth fell open. The maidens stared in shock. The king leaned forward, his smile wider now. The impossible had just been done. Then came the second test, the riddles. Ma's heart beat faster. For a moment, Sia tried to return, but the warmth inside her held her steady. "What fills a room but takes no space?" the king asked. "Light," she answered softly. "What belongs to you but others use more than you do?" "Your name." "And what grows the more you give it away?" Ma paused, then smiled just a little. "Love." The king's eyes shone. He nodded slowly. The prince stepped forward, this time not slowly. "You have passed," the king declared. His voice was strong and clear. "You have shown kindness when others walked away, strength when your body was weak, wisdom when fear tried to silence you, and a heart that does not change no matter how the world treats it. You are worthy."
A loud sound rose from the crowd. Gasps, murmurs, shock. Some of the same people who mocked her now stared, unable to speak. The prince stretched out his hand. Mma looked at it, then placed hers in his. For the first time in her life, she felt like somebody. Not for her face, not for her body, but for who she truly was. Tears rolled down her cheeks, slow, quiet, but full. Then, a familiar voice. "Do you see now, my daughter?" Mma turned. The old woman stood there, smiling. "True strength is not in how people see you," she said gently. "It is in what you carry inside when no one is looking." The prince leaned closer to Mma. Soft voice. "You are the one I have been waiting for." And in that moment, Mma understood. All the laughter, all the pain, all the rejection, it did not break her, it prepared her. Because sometimes the one the world ignores is the one chosen to change everything.
Moral lesson: do not let the world decide your worth. People may laugh at you. They may reject you. They may treat you like you are nothing. But if your heart stays kind, if you keep going when it is hard, if you choose to help when others walk away, one day everything will change. True beauty is not what people see. It is what you do when you have every reason not to be good, but you still choose to be.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, pause for a moment and reflect. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Comment below your thoughts, your favorite moment, or a lesson that moved you most. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because every week
African Stories That Touch brings you another tale that will challenge, inspire, and awaken the power within you.